You know, I still remember that night vividly. The night Mourinho sprinted on the Camp Nou pitch when Inter knocked Barcelona out of Champions League. It was a perfectly executed plan against a prime Barcelona of Pep Guardiola. A victory against all odds versus one of the best teams in the modern history, while going down to 10 men early in the match. I gotta admit, even as a Milan fan, I was moved by the way Inter were spitting blood against Barcelona. That night, Mourinho took Inter to the Champions League final in 2010, their first Champions League final in decades. And in no time, he was the champion of Europe again for the second time against Bayern Munich. That night, he could do no wrong. Everything he touched turned to gold. He was simply on top of the world. That being said, time hasn't been too kind with Jose Mourinho. After moves to Real Madrid, Chelsea for the second time, Manchester United, and Tottenham, his stock has fallen down a bit. Even with some moderate success, and I only say moderate because it's by Mourinho's high standards, Europe's elite teams aren't exactly standing in line to sign him, which caused many people to even question Jose Mourinho's future in the world of football. But the question is Mourinho finished at the top level? Have we already seen the peak of Mourinho in football? Well, stick around to find out. Right, so you'd be hard-pressed to find that many people who've been more successful than Jose Mourinho in modern football. Very few managers can match up his resume. His name meant instant guaranteed success for whichever team he was signing for. He was at the peak of his powers and was always wanted by clubs in strong situations. Chelsea, who had a strong squad with Roman Abramovich's first year of investment. Inter, where he inherited a group of veteran players who were mentally strong and with who he could identify with. And the crown jewel of his career, a move to Real Madrid where he took an expensively assembled squad with so many Galacticos, and perhaps one of the greatest to ever play the game in Cristiano Ronaldo. Seriously, this man could do no wrong. Everything he touched turned to gold. His battle with Pep Guardiola was peak football those days. You just had to mark your calendar for those El Clasico games. Fast forward to these days, football is a lot different to how it was when Mourinho was at his peak. You could argue that he hasn't been the same after leaving Real Madrid. In the second half of his career, things haven't exactly gone in his favor. He returned to Chelsea, where he won the Premier League title and the League Cup in his second year. That was a brilliant season, even by the high standards of Jose Mourinho. From outside looking in, it looked like Chelsea was back after a small transitional period, and who better than Jose Mourinho to do this with? But the following season, Mourinho was sacked after what looked like a horrible title defense. And I'm not talking about a bad form here, I'm talking about being close to relegation zone by December. But he wouldn't be out of work for too long, because Manchester United came calling, looking for their next great manager since Sir Alex Ferguson. For a long time, United had a history of attractive football, which peaked under the great Sir Alex. So obviously, Mourinho's arrival didn't really go with that philosophy and brand of football. With Jose Mourinho, they knew exactly what they were getting, but it was a necessary evil, because they had fallen way too far behind their rivals and needed an instant success no matter the cost. I gotta say, it started quite decently, as he won the League Cup and the Europa League in 2017. That being said, it didn't take too long for cracks to appear, and while they finished runners-up to Manchester City the following year, Mourinho's team were never a genuine threat to Guardiola's title challenge, with United finishing 19 points behind City. I also have to say that on paper, the United team that finished second place was quite inferior to City. So second place wasn't really a failure, but the fact that they were 19 points off, you could argue they could have done better than that. In 2019 season, things really turned sour for Mourinho at United. The environment was extremely toxic around the time, and he was sacked by United after losing to Liverpool in December. Again, I think he must really hate the month of December. Anyway, it wasn't just a toxic environment, it was also the hopeless football that United played under him in his last few months. And it didn't really help that rival coaches like Klopp and Guardiola were playing exciting football. Overall, Mourinho and Manchester United were a strange pair, and United had to end their relationship with Jose Mourinho. But if you thought United and Mourinho were a strange couple, wait till you see his next appointment. Enter Tottenham, whose form was in a massive decline only a few months after they reached the Champions League final. Tottenham have an identity of beautiful football and haven't won trophies for a long while. That's two things that Jose Mourinho doesn't relate to, and that went just as you would expect. Mourinho was sacked on the week of their League Cup final, before the final even took place. Oddly enough, just when they had a chance of winning a trophy. It was a long shot against Manchester City, but the sacking didn't really help either. It was a bizarre termination, but also a bizarre appointment to begin with. That put Mourinho in a terrible spot. The top clubs in England and Spain either burned bridges with him or had other solutions that didn't really involve him. Looking at it with hindsight, joining Tottenham was a terrible chess move by Jose Mourinho. It was a marriage of convenience for both him and the club, a marriage filled with all kinds of prenups that eventually tore apart. So that left Italy as the only place where he was still respected enough to land the top job. Enter Roma, a club who recently changed ownership and are looking to take the next step forward. As ambitious as Roma are, they still need a long rebuild to challenge for the top, or even consistent top 4 finishes in the league. He will still have the same challenge that he had in Tottenham, a great club whose ambitions far outweigh the squad that they have. For one, I was actually very happy to see him return to Italian football, but not to my team. So far, he's had a decent start, but it hasn't been rosy for him, especially when Roma lost to Bodo Glimt in Europe. That's a club from Norway, and not 1-0, not 2-0, but 6-1. 6-1. After which he publicly criticized his squad. At the time of writing this, he's still in top 6, which is honestly expected. Not bad, but not great either. I don't know how his Roma adventure would end up, but there are very few managers that have a CV comparable to Jose Mourinho. Some managers have a year on top, some have 3 years, some peak at 5 years. But Mourinho has been on top of his game for at least 15 years, if not more. I think history will remember Jose Mourinho far kinder than he's remembered today. To me, he's still a brilliant manager who's now acting like Muhammad Ali in his last couple of fights. If I was to predict his future, I think he'll have a crack at international football at some point. Maybe Portugal, maybe England, maybe China, who knows? But I do think he'll have one more opportunity at a major club. Would it be PSG? Would it be Bayern? I don't know. But there's one thing I'm sure of. I really doubt we've seen the last act of Jose Mourinho. I'm Football Drawn, and I like to tell football stories with comic and drawings. If you enjoyed this video, check out the rest of the channel as well.